Okay, this is for At Melville's Tomb by Hart Crane, and it's Hart Crane was clearly a very had a lot of respect for Melville. I would probably read a lot more of Melville than I've read. I mean, I've read Moby Dick a lot, but I haven't read that much of his poetry. But um, it's 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 certainly a certain level. What Hart Crane does and what does and what Shakespeare does at his best is create works that aren't just great stories or great or have great moments. They just they just like bleed greatness in moments. You know, just every moment of it is full of imagination and wit and genius, and that's what this poem by Hart Crane does as he's paying respect. It's called At Melville's Tomb. Often beneath the wave, wide from this ledge, the dice of drowned men's bones he saw bequeath an embassy. Their numbers, as he watched, beat on the dusty shore and were obscured. The wrecks passed without sound of bells, the calyx of death's bounty giving back. A scattered chapter, livid hieroglyph, the portent wound in corridors of shells. Then in the circuit calm of one vast coil, its lashings charmed and malice reconciled, frosted eyes there were that lifted altars, and silent answers crept across the stars. Compass, quadrant, and sextant contrive no farther tides. High in the azure steeps, monody shall not wake the mariner. This fabulous shadow only the sea keeps. See, I kept wanting to stop as I was reading that, but I just Green he just plays with sounds so perfectly. It, his works are it's sometimes hard to like them until you love them, and you can only I mean I've found that I only love them after engaging with them a couple times, and just the way that he repeats sounds and just brings things up that are just so dark, and also he's like while you're not paying attention he'll just sneak in this world of beauty. Often beneath the wave, wide from this ledge, the dice of drowned men's bones, so you can kind of you hear that you can hear the sound of a bone or bones bouncing like dice. He saw bequeath an embassy. Their numbers as he watched beat on the dusty shore and were obscured. I'm pretty sure this has to do with Moby Dick. A lot of the whole reason Ahab's so upset is death and the loss of things. Um, the wrecks passed without sound of bells. The calyx of death's bounty giving back a scattered chapter, livid hieroglyph. So just in that one phrase, livid hieroglyph, he's like all of these dark things, all of this death just burns. It just like kind of it it gets so bright, and suddenly we're seeing something very different from what we thought we were. A portent wound in corridors of shells. Then, in the circuit calm of one vast coil, its lashings charmed and malice reconciled, frosted eyes there were that lifted altars, and silent answers crept across the stars. So you see it something Crane does a little bit. The altars lifting up, the that death and suffering is somehow sanctified and bringing into its world beauty and God, like that that loss itself is bringing unimaginable beauty. compass quadrant and sextant contrive, no farther tides, high in the azure steeps, monody shall not wake the mariner, this fabulous shadow only the sea keeps. Really just um, paying excellent tribute to Melville, showing showing him that there really won't ever be a poet quite like him. That there, I mean, Moby Dick, for one, as far as American books, still hasn't been topped for exactly what it is, whatever that is. But it's a Shakespearean level novel. It's it's very rare that someone can just create something that's so vivid. That is at once reminds you of a play and yet is something beyond it. That that you can feel an actor or a performer or something new just talking to you and pouring out their soul, and in a way that will change almost every time you read it. Okay, I'm going to talk a lot more about Hart Crane and probably this poem in particular, but I think that's pretty good for a first video on this. That was At Melville's Tomb by Hart Crane. It's from White Buildings.